Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm trying to slow things down because I was just talking super fast for my TikTok version of this video, which is really meant to just lead people to this fuller version, the YouTube version. So anyways, today we're going to talk about one of my favorite books. It's written by one of my favorite writers, Adam Silvera, who I have met at a reading, and he's one of the most hilarious writers I have ever met. He is not one of the most, he is the most hilarious, although I have met Amy Sedaris. But, you know, she doesn't really write fiction. She usually writes, like, fake craft books and things. So it's kind of hard to differentiate there. But anyways, as far as, let's just say, writers of traditional fiction, Adam Silvera is by far the funniest person, the most engaging writer I've ever met. You know, usually you think of writers as being, like, frankly, like, what I think I'm worried I will be like is very introverted and, like, I guess I'm just here on this tour because I have to be, but please don't come at me, don't ask me questions. But Adam is the exact opposite of that. He's just like hilarious and very exaggerated, and you know, maybe that's all an actor, maybe that's just who he is, I don't know, but it was very entertaining meeting him. And you would not expect that he writes such dark material, so there's probably something there. There's probably a reason for that, right? Usually they say that that the most hilarious comedians usually suffer from a lot of darkness. And I don't want to say anything about Adam's life, but you know, he's pretty vocal about some of his struggles, so there's probably a bit of that going on. He's vocal about that on like Twitter and Instagram and stuff, so I don't want to delve into any of that. That's up to him to talk about. What I do want to talk about is how great this book is. So the title, They Both Die at the End. You might be wondering, and yeah, the spoiler is right here in the title. So now that you know how it ends, it's interesting to find out how and why, right? And so the basic premise of this book is it's about these two guys who, in an alternate version of our reality, there's a government agency that calls you on your death day, at a specific time on your death day. And what was confusing for me is I was like, well, wouldn't it make sense to call somebody like exactly 24 hours before they're about to die? But I guess no, the whole point is you don't know at what point during the day you die. But, you know, being very analytical, I was like, okay, if they call you, I forget at what time, maybe it's at midnight, maybe it's midnight 01 or something. But what if you die at like midnight 02? Or what if they call it like 7 a.m., let's say? Well, that wouldn't really work, would it? It would have to be midnight. So what if you're gonna die at 5 minutes past midnight or something? That's not fair. Like some people get a call. Like what if, on the contrary, like what if you're going to die at like 11:55 p.m.? So you've got like this whole day ahead of you. So it just doesn't seem quite fair. But anyway, the point is, in this alternate reality, the government calls you, some group calls you and says, hey, by the way, today is your death day. And that allows you the chance to sort of say goodbye to people and whatnot. And so it alternates between perspectives of two characters who are both in that same boat, that are both found out that today is the day that they will die. And so anyways, of course, there's a third-party app. Some other company has made an app that lets you connect with people in your own area, and you say, oh geez, you're also dying today? Me too. Want to hang out? Because we're the only two people, well, amongst all the others, who are going to die today, and you understand my pain, I understand your pain. And anyways, that happens with these two main characters, although not that initially, it actually takes quite a while for them to meet up now that I'm thinking about it. And anyway, so they meet up, they decide, let's strike some things off of our bucket lists together before the inevitable happens. And of course, there's always like that ticking clock feeling of, but when is it going to happen? I mean, since it's a book, you can tell when it's probably going to happen, because it certainly can't happen after chapter 1, right? So it's probably going to happen towards the end of the book. So as long as you're reading a physical book copy, you feel pretty safe that, okay, these characters are clearly not going to die anytime soon. But I digress. The point is, it's really, really good, and maybe there's a little bit of romance in there, which makes it all the more the end, you know. I find that I don't cry a heck of a lot at books. I don't also cry much at TV shows. For instance, I just finished watching Schitt's Creek. I started it. I'm way, like a fad will come and pass, and then I'll finally hear about it, and then I'll jump on that train or boat or whatever the phrase is. So that was the case with Schitt's Creek for me. So I basically binged all 6 seasons of Schitt's Creek. And the finale, it did not get to me at all. I was like, nah, that was a fine episode. But as a series finale, I was like, I'm not crying. Whereas like an episode in the previous season, a scene in that got me a little teary. But anyways, my point is that this definitely did make me cry at the end. So that's something to be said for this. It made me do those emotion things with my face that I don't typically do. And yeah, that's pretty much all I want to say about it. It's a really, really good book. It's a great premise. It's very, very clever. And my understanding is this is one of the 3 books that has been optioned, is the terminology, which means that some movie studio has said, not necessarily we are going to make that into a series or show, but it's more like we want the option to make that into a series or show, or more specifically, we don't want anybody else to have that option. There's a book series that I loved when I was in middle school called the Xanth. It doesn't really have a series. I think it's just called the Xanth series. It's by Piers Anthony, and it's like adults fantasy. And those got optioned right after Lord of the Rings was announced, basically, so 8 billion years ago, but they never got made into a movie. Also, one of Piers Anthony's other series, On a Pale Horse or something like that, got optioned, and nothing ever transpired. But these days, it seems like, for the most part, when a studio options something, it really is more likely than not going to be turned into something. So my understanding is this is one of those things. Quick little edit insert. I was in the process of editing this video, and then that very same day, Adam Silvera did in fact announce that yes, the big news that he wanted to share is that They Both Die at the End is going to be made into a TV show, or at least it's in pre-production for that. Things can always change with regard to that. Things get canceled. And then the reason why I was confused and why I thought that it had already been announced is because it had already been announced years ago. It had been optioned by a completely separate company. So that company did option it right when it was first published, and then never did anything with it. So when the rights became available again, because they can only hold on to those rights for a certain number of years, and those are different contractually, as soon as those rights became available, a different production company, the same production company who is adapting Adam Silvera's other book called, More Happy Than Not, that same production company is like, we also want They Both Die at the End, please. And so, interestingly enough, the way that they worked that out with Adam is that he will be the one adapting it, which, on one hand, cool, the author is going to do it. On the other hand, I don't know that Adam has any experience in screenwriting. Maybe he does. Maybe he has a degree in it, for all I know. But assuming he doesn't have a degree in it, and assuming he doesn't have any experience in it, that's tricky because he's so close to the material, he might not know what kinds of things should change. There are certain things, like when you look at the book, Simon versus the Homo Sapien Agenda, versus the movie Love, Simon, first of all, the title. Somebody had the smarts to realize that, sorry, Becky Albertalli, that is a mouthful, let's shorten it to Love, Simon. Much better title, frankly. And not only that, but spoiler alert, to ruin the very ending of the movie, it works as a tilt-a-whirl in the book just fine, but visually, aesthetically, ease of shooting, it's gotta be a Ferris wheel. And thank God somebody had the smarts to figure that out and change it to a Ferris wheel. So, sure, I will always love the tilt-a-whirl from the book, and it works in a book. You can describe it however you want in a book, and it doesn't matter because you don't have a physical camera that you've got to try to figure out how to shoot a tilt-a-whirl with in a book. Or, you know, just a Ferris wheel cinemagraphically works a lot better. It's majestic, it's huge. So, of course, a screenwriter is going to realize, well, obviously we're changing this from a tilt-a-whirl to a Ferris wheel instantaneously. Is Becky Albertalli, if she were to adapt it, is she going to think of that? Probably not, because she's so close to the material. So I'm a little worried, without him being so close to the material, that he's writing every episode as far as I understand. A little worried that he might be too close to the material, but we'll see. I'm sure it will turn out great. Anyways, back to the recorded days ago footage. Things. And also my understanding is, even though he doesn't have his publisher asking him to do this, he has started writing a sequel to, well, it's not a sequel to this because, again, they both die at the end. So it's about different characters, but in the same universe with the same concept of the whole Death Day kind of situation. So anyways, that's pretty exciting, but even if there isn't a TV show coming out about it, it's still really freaking good. It's probably my favorite of his solo books. I think my favorite of his books is technically the one that I previously did a review about called What If It's Us? And yes, as you can guess, I'm recording those videos back to back because I've got both these books at hand. But anyways, that's technically my favorite of his two books because it's just so cute. But this one is also really cute, but also really emotional. And anyways, he's a great author. He definitely writes darker than I typically read, and definitely writes grittier. But this is like the lighter of his books, even though it literally is about two people dying. It's really good. You should check it out. And I'm not sure what my next video is going to be about. I haven't decided that yet, so we'll see what that is. But anyways, stay tuned for that. See you guys for the next one. Bye, guys.